G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Brian here, and today I'm going to chat about the number one question people ask me, or have been asking me for 10 years about Japanese whiskey. Is that how do you get it? It's more specifically when you're travelling in Japan, how do you get all these limited editions and all these different Japanese whiskies when you're over there? Well, how do you even get them and get them sent to your country? So Kampai, well, I do my best to tell you the reality of that. And yes, not water, I'm actually drinking, and I highly recommend for any whiskey drinkers that haven't tried some really good mezcals, maybe jump on mezcal reviews and check out the different mezcals that are there. This is real artisanal stuff, and I'm drinking the 5 sentidos or 5 sentidos, and the Margay is Tabala. So good stuff, and this one rings in at 45.9%. Definitely mezcals. In fact, in the US now, mezcal, at least last year that I read in 2022, had the highest growth in spirit sales in the US. It's becoming, especially in cocktails, a real cocktail favourite, but they can be incredibly complex. So if you get a chance, you've got to get the right ones. Don't just get the usual shitty, low percentage, cheap stuff, just like tequila. If you've had a bad experience, it's because you haven't tried good tequila or good mezcal. So anyway, the number one question is this: where do I get Japanese whiskey in Japan? And I'm going to assume, especially having a blog for more than 10 years now, 11 years now, about Japanese whiskey, separate to this site, online blog, that people see all the Japanese whiskey that I've owned and bought, and you can jump on there, and I can put a link in the description about, these are my bottles and the bottles I co-own with people, and it goes into the hundreds upon hundreds from over the years. And the reality is, you can't. You can't just go to Japan and just pick up all this really cool Japanese whiskey. Now, maybe you've seen some of the stuff that you get online every now and again. Some of the big players, like I can think in the UK, for instance, the Whisky Exchange, or Le Monde Whisky in France, and they get limited editions and stuff like that. But you're going to pay the premium on top, and that's not really what people are asking you. They want to know how do you get it and not pay a lot of money. But you just can't. Now, when I'm getting bottles and I get 99% of my bottles from Japan, it's because over the years, being a whiskey blogger and travelling to Japan many, many times, I build up contacts with people that are there. And my contacts with those people are private contacts. Okay, they don't want a million people in on it. It's not something that's not a shareable thing, because I had to work towards how to get Japanese whiskey, especially at the retail prices you get there. The other thing I'm going to say is I still get messages or emails or comments where folks that have read my blog for years have gone, I've been in Japan and nothing's changed. I still can't buy stuff, just walk down to the local store or liquor store and get all these whiskies that are being released year on year in Japan. I don't know how many get released. If you put in Mars, Chichibu, Konosuke, Shizuoka, Nagahama, and the big players, is it 100 a year? Is it 150 a year? I don't keep count. There's a lot of single casks, especially that come out of Chichibu and Mars. But if they're there, where are they in Japan? It's because the people that are getting them, and you might see them on social media like Facebook, and someone's pouring this bottle of, only 200 bottles of this single cask whiskey. It's because they know people. They know people in Japan. They've got a line on, when a retailer is about to release a single cask or a limited edition, they've got a line on when it's going to be released, and they buy it all up before it hits the shelf. And this has been going on for years. Now, there are ways. Obviously you can pay a lot of money to get these releases by going through third-party retailers outside of Japan. You can look at things like Japanese Yahoo. There are sites that you can go on, become a member, and you can bid on through Japanese Yahoo and get them sent home, or Rakuten, Rakuten or TAN. It's another site you can go on and join up and see different whiskey. But by and large, the prices have already gone up. People have already bought them from somewhere else and they're charging 5 times straight away or 10 times the price. So it's going to be very hard even then, even though you can have access to literally hundreds upon hundreds of different Japanese whiskies. You're going to pay the premium anyway. So that is the sad reality of Japanese whiskey over the last 7-8 years. The inability to get it at a reasonable price. Because quite frankly, I'm not spending... If a Mars is released in Japan and I get it retail and I'm paying, say, $60 US or $80, I'm not jumping on Japanese Yahoo or one of the third-party sites that you can bid through to buy this stuff and paying $1,000 for it, or whatever it is, 5 times the price, $500 or whatever, because I know the original price. So I'm afraid to say I'll do another video about how you can actually taste these for not a lot of money at all. So maybe that could be the follow-up video. But I'll tell you a story about how hard it is to get Japanese whiskey, even for people that are in the know. The original Japanese whiskey bar in Tokyo, and as far as I know, the original Japanese whiskey bar, so of course there's bars in Japan, but this is a bar that specialised in Japanese whiskey, was Shop Bar Zoetrope in Shinjuku. And I went there first time in 2009, and it was really an originator of this whole idea of having a specialised Japanese whiskey bar. And now obviously there's many places in Japan you can go and try Japanese whiskey. Now the owner, who knows me from the many times I've been there, was telling me a story once. Japanese guy, Origami-san, Horigami. He was telling me that he knew there was a limited release coming out at the Isetan department store. Now this one he's talking about, where he is in Shinjuku, is maybe 5-10 minutes max walk from his bar. And he knew the day it was going to come out. So he went there at opening time to get a few of these bottles of limited releases that Isetan had. And they used to do single casts and all this other stuff as well, from different distilleries like Suntory or Nikka in Japan at the time. But when he got there, gone. Already sold out. This is how he told me it happened. Now, there's these tours that come from China, and they come on shopping tours. Now, these tours have an arrangement with these department stores that before opening time, and this is not just for whiskey, this is for anything, just so they have the place to themselves. That before opening time, they come in on a bus, maybe it's 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning before closing. They get out, they're allowed in, they shop unobstructed by anybody else, and they leave. And what had happened was one of these buses had come in with Chinese tourists, and they got in and bought all the stock before he could even get there. So you can imagine, if you're just a tourist coming in from Japan and you're interested in Japanese whiskey, if one of the doyens of Japanese whiskey often can't get a bottle, how hard it is for average Joe to come in and get Japanese whiskey. Or the limited edition stuff. Now, what I will say is this also, is that Japan gets so many limited edition whiskies from, say, Scotland or Taiwan or wherever else that aren't Japanese. So it's still worthwhile going to liquor stores there and checking out what they've got. because they get single casks. They do their own single cask. So even if it's not necessarily Japanese whiskey, you can get incredible single cask, or rums or whatever. I mean, I got some great stuff from Japan that aren't Japanese whiskey because they get their own stuff. They're fanatical about all these types of spirits or whatever, so you can go to different places there. So still worthwhile going to stores there and checking it out, because you can still pick up exclusives that you can only get in Japan and nowhere else. So sorry, there's only one other thing I'd say, is that, because someone may say this, but on the very odd occasion you may fluke at one of the airports heading out like Haneda or Narita. Every now and again, like Suntory or Kirin or Chichibu might have a special release or a limited release, or even like Hibiki 21 from Suntory. Every now and again, or the 18-year-olds, they'll have them there, and they're a lot cheaper than probably what you get them back home. But it's got to be a fluke, because again, there's limited numbers, and as soon as certain tourists see that they've got them on the shelves, they'll just take them all. So good news, bad news. You're probably not going to get it in Japan if you go there. It's probably going to be a struggle, but you can get a lot of other cool stuff, a lot of other cool whiskies when you're in Japan. So still check out the stores like Shinanoya or Liquors Hasegawa. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.